Yes, we have everybody here on the panel. So I will start from my first question to all of you. So as we see and as we know that all the pros that artificial intelligence is giving and providing to the banks is that the boosting of the revenues due to the personalized offers to the customers, also decreasing of the costs due to the high automation, decreasing of the errors, etc. So why? But we still see, at least here in the region, that banks are still experimenting the usage of the AI around the few cases, and are not deploying the AI at a scale. So what would you name as the main challenges for the banks here and how they can overcome? Eric, would you start?
Oh, yes, thank you. I see a couple of challenges in banks and financial institutions, one from a business perspective and the other from the technical perspective. From the business perspective, it is knowing what are the business pain or what are the business cases that needs to be applied at artificial intelligence, or what it will be the desirable outcome before just targeting them with artificial intelligence. From the technical point of view, the main challenge I see is the dilemma between build it or use it. So hiring a lot of artificial intelligence experts and analysts and trying to build an AI platform for using within the bank, or to partner with an artificial intelligence platform vendor for using and plug it with the existing banking legacy or application. Those are the main challenge I am seeing.
Thank you, Eric. Piotr, would you be the next here?
Yes, thank you, Elena. So for me, I think that implementing AI services in the bank is quite a shock for the organization, and in my opinion, the main challenge is to change the strategy. And some banks, of course, are selecting one or two AI cases to develop, but others are completely reducing their strategy. So they are using AI from front office to back office, and such behavior demands a change in strategy, and this is the most painful element. And I think that to overcome this element, we need to start with small AI piece of technology and prove to the rest of the organization, to the rest of the bank, that it is working, that it is performing quite well. And after that, it may be a case that that other stakeholders will appear within the organization, within the bank, and they will be more interested in improving their fields. And there are, of course, some technical problems too. For example, legacy software, which doesn't enable to build any AI services on it. And if such situation occurs, then it is a problem, and banks need to invest in technology heavily to change the systems for open platforms which have AI capabilities. And the last thing, but I think that not least, is AI-friendly database, because in fact this is a must. In case of AI algorithms, there are many thousands of requests to the database. So the database needs to be perfectly elastic, flexible, and ready to be able to serve thousands of queries at the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Marta, what do you think on that?
Yes, I think a huge area is people. Nowadays, we working together with a few financial institutions, generally speaking, and we see that data science is crucial. Data science department or data science specialists. So without them, without the people, artificial intelligence will be useful. Why? Because the information should be analyzed. It is not only connect another system in another area of the IT infrastructure. It should be connected, as Eric mentioned, with the use cases. It is connected with the particular objectives of the financial institutions. For example, if we focus for I have the experience in the leads and customer area. So if we focus on the leads, we don't implement the same machine learning algorithms in customers, because it is not the same data, and the data should be analyzed in the particular way, in the proper way, to give the perfect information to the financial institutions. And another thing is the time. It is not only with, okay, we have the plugin and we implement this solution in our financial institutions and we will still waiting. No. We should analyze this data, and that the time is not in the, for example, for the 1 month, but we should observe the data, the answers of this data, and particular, for example, offer. Thank you.
Yes, Antti, and which challenges did you have when implementing the AI in financial group?
Well, basically all the challenges that colleagues already highlighted, but I would like to add one more, and that is the availability of data. Okay. Banks tend to have a lot of operative systems and data warehouses. I mean, OP, we have some 800 operative systems and 200 data warehouses. And I think that bank information management capabilities are primarily designed to meet the needs for big-scale finance, risk management, and regulative projects and needs. And they are not primarily planned to support the data needs for 5 or 10 or 20 data scientists here and there. And for me, scaling up the advanced analytics and AI value, it's not just about getting more and more data scientists. It's much more about getting hundreds of data-orientated people like data analysts and citizen data scientists. And I think that the response here is the data domains. And by data domain, I mean providing a reliable data to work with. It can be, for example, account transactions, customership data, contract data, product data, or something like that. And the core idea is to provide documentation describing the availability of the data sources, data lineage, data quality, etc., etc. And the key is that this is the data that you as a data scientist or data analyst can use to support the business decision making and providing real-time customer services. And it means that the data is very limited likely at the start, but making this happen is a multi-year journey anyway.
Yes, we have actually here the question in the chat from Ketevan about the volume of the data. So does the efficiency of AI forecasting depend on volume of data, and how effective would it be for the segment-specific forecasting of around 10,000 customers? And if you would like to add something, you are welcome, and then I would like Piotr to answer.
That is a great question. Data scientists, when starting the project, they typically ask that, can we have 20,000 rows of sample data instead of having the whole history of 1 billion or 2 billion rows? I think that in many cases that we start with only a couple of tens of thousands of rows with the data. And obviously, it changes a bit with the different business cases, but likely tens of thousands of rows instead of tens of millions of rows. It's something that I would start with.
Piotr, would you comment?
Yes, I would like to add one thing that the most crucial thing in this case is the quality of the database. Because from our experience, it is that banks keep data in different places and these data are not kept in order. So that's why the quality of database is crucial. But regarding this 10K of clients, I think that it's not a problem to calculate models because the solutions are not calculating these forecasting models in a real time. It is sufficient to do it, for example, once a day or once a week, and it's not a complete model rebuilding. It's like the adjusting of the model. So 10K of clients shouldn't be any problem to do it. But like I said, the quality of database is crucial and accessibility of the database.
The next question that we have from our attendees is the following from Kamen. So that we saw a lot of cases of AI implementation, and there is one missing on the credit risk scoring. So what is your view on this area, and can we expect that AI-based scoring to become more common in the future for SME customers, of course? Who would like to pick up this question? Yes,
I can start with that one.
Okay.
Well, it's both ways. On the other hand, we must be pretty explainable to regulators that how we are calculating the credit risk. So there are some limitations there, at least in the northern countries, like in Finland. However, it doesn't prevent us to develop a challenger models to the existing models that are in the production and kind of to train the data and train the models based on those. So it's not either of, it can be both. You must have something on production, maybe rule-based, something that you can easily talk and review with the regulators, but on the other hand, you should implement challenger models to support those and support the development on longer timeline.
I also add something. That first of all, regarding the previous information from Piotr, some data we can know in the real time. For example, going through the AI solutions and particular offer, we should calculate in the real time the data to give the customer the particular offer. But answer of this question regarding the credit scoring, of course, we have the behind of mind, we have the compliance and legal department, because it's of course limited. We should give the information how the risk was calculated, how the rule on the rules was prepared, but also AI and machine learning is an added value for the credit scoring. Nowadays, we examine the market and examine the needs of the customers, and we have some proposal to the financial institutions how to do it. But of course, there is connected with whole data, not only internal data about the customer, but also from the external data. Here in Poland, we have the credit bureau, for example. I know in the Germany also has got these institutions. So we put information from other external data to the machine learning engines and see how it looks like.
Is anybody willing to add here? Okay, then I would like then to get back to the question of the AI strategy, and Antti, I would like to ask you the thing that it is interesting that you mentioned that you started the AI implementations without having any strategies. And all
Yes.
of you mentioned that AI strategy are not having the view of where the AI can be implemented in the bank is one of the main reasons why this is not implemented at the scale at the moment. So, Antti, I would like to ask you first and then all other panelists. So now having so many implementations and the experience connected with that, do you have an AI strategy, and do you think this is crucial? And if yes, how should this look like?
Yeah, this is tough not to crack. I mean, AI first means very different things to different bank stakeholders. For someone, it's about automating as much customer service as possible. For some, it's embedding intelligent component to as many services or products as possible. And for someone, it means reaching out to the stars and working with only, moonshot type of projects. And when looking back the journey, it took us like 3 years when we felt that we were mature enough to do a strategy and vision. We have been working that it's pretty much done, but we couldn't have done that 3 years ago without first-hand experience. So I still see our approach that let's start working with the use cases and making them happen, and then adjust the views as we go. Some of you obviously might argue, but that has worked out pretty good for us. But I would like to highlight one thing, because I think that the most important one is making real-time use cases happen. I mean, financial services is still strong on on-premise databases, and you can still achieve some customer wow or positive surprise with real-time use cases. And the key thing is that you shouldn't be working with reporting only. If you think that let's just support the decision-making capabilities with AI and forget the end customers, then it's too easy to kind of forget the whole thing.
Piotr, would you answer here?
Yes, thank you. So regarding the strategy for AI in banks, I think that there are 3 main pillars. First of all is the technology. Second is the competences, so human resources. And the third is the policy across organization. Because changing the strategy for AI first or AI is a paradigm shift in the bank. It's a massive organizational change. And it means that every process in the bank will be affected and every project in the bank will be affected. That's why we need to educate employees and we need to educate clients too. So banks which want to go AI first need to redesign the organizational structure to fit the new environment, and AI technologies will be present from the top to the bottom of the organization. So regarding the core technology, the crucial thing is the ability to scale AI features across the organization. So the ability to work on the existing technology, work on the existing software and hardware in order to be able to deliver AI features. The second thing which I mentioned, which is competencies. So unfortunately, for now, AI isn't a very easy tool to work, and there are some new changes. There are some things ongoing. For example, Google is providing a new AI tool in cloud, which is based on deep learning, but it still requires good IT competencies, and these competencies are necessary to work with these tools. So that's why bank needs to engage AI vendors or build competencies in their teams. And the last thing is policy across organizations. So when we think about AI first strategy, we need to think about analyzing any project or any process through the lenses of AI. So even the smallest thing, even the smallest project needs to be analyzed, taking in mind that it will be AI affected.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Piotr. Marta and Erika, we ask you to comment. Marta?
Okay, a few words. As colleagues mentioned, of course, the people, as I mentioned also before, data science people which know the artificial intelligence deeply. But there are two ways of this particular group of employees. Firstly, we can hire internally as a bank. Secondly, we can also outsource this group of people and manage as consultants. But generally speaking, from the strategy of the financial institutions, we should thinking about and sit together with the sales department, operational department, back office department, and many areas in the financial institutions, and think about the crucial things which we should implement, in which areas we should implement artificial intelligence. There is, I am sure that it's impossible to implement a whole mechanism regarding the machine learning solutions in whole area in one time. It requires time and knowledge about the particular operational. For example, for the back office side, we see on our presentation together that we have the chatbots, the voice bots. Here also there is artificial intelligence and, for example, analyze the sentiment of the client, of the customer. Nowadays, we don't focus on this, but this is the future. Nowadays, we sitting whole in the homes because we dealing via internet. We deal with the bank via digitally because we have the situation of COVID. Nowadays, we are supported by the voice assistants, but voice assistant doesn't show us if we are angry, if we are upset, if we are happy, and doesn't. And here we haven't got information, or okay, I can buy, for example, new credit card with the additional functionalities, for example, concierge. Because we haven't got such data. And this area also is artificial intelligence. So to the main point, I think we should sit together with the different departments and discuss the 1 to 3 main points to optimize with artificial intelligence implementation.
Thank you, Marta. Eric, we would like to hear your answer as well.
Yes, obviously, at Strands, after having implemented AI-driven application for more than 700 banks and financial institutions, we do have a clear AI strategy to propose to financial institutions. We have a very clear and defined roadmap to AI, scaling AI across the companies and financial institutions. But I do agree with all what has been said about the AI strategy by my colleagues here. Just let me emphasize one point we were discussing before, and it is regarding the availability of data. Part of the policies in that AI strategy that a bank should implement includes the openness of data and information. I know it is a very sensitive area, and there are existing regulations regarding, for example, data protection, but there are solutions out there. Either AI banking platform vendors already have it, or different other vendors providing services for data anonymization or data synthetic data generation to produce a huge amount of data from an existing transactional sample. So this is one of the key elements to take into account when implementing an AI strategy.
Mm-hmm. Eric, and the next question I want to also ask you, and then after this, Marta and Piotr, which resources are needed from the banks if they are not building on their own their AI solutions, like the examples and use cases that you showed, but they are plugging in with you. So which resources from the banks are needed, like time, team? Do they banks have to have AI team, data scientists, etc.? Eric, would you
okay.
start? Oh, Marta, okay. Yes, please.
Sorry.
Yes, Marta, please.
From the resources point of view, the banks needed only the business people and IT people. We have the experience working together. We have the data science people, big data science the department, and banking or financial institutions needs only this group. Of course, in the behind of each project, there is a legal department, back office department, and so on. But mainly business people and IT people.
Okay, thank you. Piotr, what about you? If plugging in with you.
I would say that it depends on the model of working with bank. Sometimes bank wants to participate in the project and want to engage his own experts, like data science experts or IT experts. But like I said, the necessary competencies are just business and a little bit of IT to enable access to databases and so on. But of course, some projects may require involvement of the data scientists from the bank too.
Eric, and what about strengths?
Yes, definitely. The bank needs to set up a team, a multidisciplinary team from the different areas and departments, from the business side, from the technology side, to work with the AI vendor to follow up the roadmap and complete it to a successful project.
Okay, thank you. Now I will read the questions from our attendees. So the one is the following. So apart from the being a huge development, is AI a real threat to the physical workforce? So nowadays, due to the pandemic, this has brought a lot of problems, many job losses. And is AI a new threat to this issue? What do you think about this? Who would like to start?
I can start.
Please, Antti.
During the pandemics, we experienced very different type of volumes than on normal circumstances. I can take an example. Normally, it's like 200, 300 customers a day who ask to postpone their mortgage payments for 3 months or 6 months. And during the pandemic, that volume grow up to the 15,000 requests per day. And obviously, we weren't able to cope with that volume with the existing tools and technologies. And there we took approach that we combined the data scientist people with the business and the robotic process automation people. And in 4 weeks, we created a solution that melted basically down the backlog of almost 100,000 requests in 4 days. And that is kind of the approach that we have took during the pandemics, because many of the volumes that were the operating model and the process has been steady for years and years, even decades. The volume has tremendously shifted during the pandemic. And that was basically our take there. So you have to be very concrete and have all options and possibilities of robotic process automation and AI and advanced analytics on the table when you are trying to see fixing something that is seriously broken.
Thank you, Antti. Would anybody like to add
Yes,
here? Marta, please.
yes, I think it is not the threat of the people. I think it is the opportunity for these people. Why? Because AI only is a supplement and implementation of the particular functionalities which can be done by AI, but not to in 100% support banking in day basis operation. Nowadays, as colleagues mentions, there is a lot of data, but of course, some data will be done by rules, some data will be done by an AI, and we should add this functionality as added value that the bank should be grow up. That's all. So I don't think so that this is the threat for these people. I am pretty sure that this is the opportunity to do something new and something which is a challenge onto the market and will boost the banks at the top of sales, for example.
Thank you. And the last question, which I
Sorry,
will...
Elena, can I add one thing about this?
Of course, you're welcome, Piotr.
So I would like to add. I would like to add only one thing, that repetitive work will disappear. So some maybe operations, some repetitive operations in banks will disappear. But there, like Marta mentioned, there will be no opportunity. There will be new opportunities for banks, for people in banks, because the positions will change. The competence will change. So there will be no job losses, like someone have asked through the chat, but the people will need to adopt to new competences and to new positions regarding usage in organization.
Thank you, Piotr. And the last question that I will combine here in one is that how AI works for the low income and illiterate people who is not exposed in use of the internet and social networks. This we have a question from the Govinda from Nepal, and also we have the very similar question about Africa, about the implementation of AI in Africa. Would you comment, Antti? Would I ask you, knowing that Finland is the country with one of the biggest number of internet users, would you comment here shortly?
Yeah, I mean, on the other hand, the investments to start working with AI, it doesn't demand huge investments. All you need is some data and a model that you operate in AWS in EC2 instance or something like that you can pay, 40 cents an hour. So a couple of euros per month. So the initial investment is not big, but obviously you have to have the people that are using your solution through the mobile phone or through the internet. So yes, you must have the basic infrastructure there.
Thank you very much. Thank you all our panelists. The time for our panel is over.